following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Savannah Humoller, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it is time for a very special edition of Mick Shots here inside the SWBC podcast studio. High noon on a Wednesday. Mickey, we've got football players on a football field outside on a beautiful day for football here.
Football coach.
Yes, you got a football player in the studio, Everson Walls. And we've got Savannah going through all of your text messages because you're irate that this team has lost 2 games in a row. But most importantly, we've got a football coach in the studio, Dave Campo, with us today. Hello, Coach Campo.
Thank you. But you know what? It's special already because that's the legend over there.
That's
they
right.
They ran me out of town. Of course, they kind of ran him out of town, too.
He keeps telling us you ran him out of town.
No, Campo was my dude.
No.
Campo was my dude. He was just trying to stay out of the way of all the shots, you know. That's all. He was in the middle of it all. That's all good stuff, man.
Well, he proved everybody wrong, I can tell you that.
That's right.
He did what he had to do.
He got a ring before everybody else did.
Exactly.
Well, Dave Campo is in town. In fact, he just flew in from his home in Jacksonville because it is a big week from the 1990s era, after 1989, Everson.
Yes.
The
yes.
1990s
There was life
era
after
of Cowboys.
89.
That's right. Because, of course, Jimmy Johnson going into the Ring of Honor on Saturday night, and Coach Campo's certainly not going to miss that, right, Dave?
No, and you know, the interesting thing is, you know Jimmy probably as well as I do. You know, he was around long enough, but he doesn't like the fanfare. So he basically said to everybody, hey, you know, we all went to the Hall of Fame induction, but he said, hey, you know, I mean, you know, I'm here because of gratitude, you know, and respect, but gratitude for what he did for me and my family.
No doubt.
You know, my career, you know, you don't know where it would have been had I not ended up at Miami and coming into here to Dallas. So, you know, I was going to be here, and I'm going to tell him exactly that when I see him. You know.
How long were you there with him at the U in Miami?
Only 2 years.
Okay.
And that was a big deal because I wasn't quite sure. I knew he was going to get a pro job, but, you know, everybody else he brought with him had been with him for 4 or 5 years. So I was a little nervous. You know, 2 years, he's big on loyalty.
The new guy. You were the new guy, right?
Yeah, and loyalty is really big. And I think the thing that really saved me, to be honest with you, was Dave Wanstead because, you know, the only thing Jimmy was concerned about going to the next level was the NFL passing game. And, you know, so Dave said basically to Jimmy, hey, look, this guy's smart. He'll learn it. He's loyal, and that's how I got it here, really.
And Wanstead and the Butch Davis type, and they were with Jimmy going back to Oklahoma State.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Tony Wise.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, those guys were with him for a long time, and so I was very fortunate.
Well, now you part of that mix, man.
You came from where to get to Miami?
From Syracuse.
Syracuse,
And,
right.
you know, Jimmy was a stat man. And we were 5th and 7th and 3rd in pass defense at Syracuse. Now, the one thing about it was nobody threw the ball over there. So
You had the Moose there. You had Daryl Johnston there.
Yeah, we had the Moose.
Why would you throw the ball if you had the Moose there?
Exactly. And Daryl was the first guy, you know, he sent us out scouting right away when we got here. And Daryl was the first guy I went to see at Syracuse because of my association there. But
So was Wojcik still at Syracuse when you were there?
Wojcik was. And,
Wojcik.
you know, I think that one of the reasons he ended up with us is because of Tony. You know, Tony was at Syracuse as well. So, you know, that was, you know, he was big on people knowing people. I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay.
When I went down for my interview at Miami, I already had another job, and they weren't going to do anything until after the Fiesta Bowl. So Wanstead, I was with him at Pitt. Tony Wise lived in my house at Washington State. He was with me at 2 other jobs. He was a GA at the time. Excuse me. Dalrymple was a student assistant at Pitt. Kevin O'Neill I'd been with Oregon State and Pittsburgh. Jankovic, the AD, was the student club president at Washington State. Was there, so I figured I'd have a good shot at this thing, right? Well, I find out later, and this is what I tell young coaches all the time. You know, how you treat people is going to be your legacy when it's all done. He went downstairs, and Al Bellamy, who is still in the league, a trainer, he's still in the league. I think he's with the Washington Commanders. He said, "Hey, how's Campo with the black kids?" If he'd have said, you know, he's this or that, I would not have gotten that job. And he said,
so ever since how was Campo with the black
He was
kids?
cool as hell. And Campo was cool as hell.
And he said, hey, the guy, they like him, he's good, you know, etc. So that was it.
First question.
How are you with the black kids? That's funny, boy. That's good stuff, man.
Yep.
And the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
So when you got here, Jimmy retained Dick Nolan, right?
Correct.
For
That's
1 year?
why.
Yeah.
That's why. He wasn't, you know, he wanted, but the interesting thing is, Everson knows this, and we weren't worth a darn. We put our scheme in.
Yeah, we watched.
And I actually, and I actually put it in. You know, Dick was a man-to-man, you know, kind of a, you know, I mean, it was a pro attack as opposed to we were simple. You know, get pass rush and you know that type of thing.
Syracuse.
Yeah,
Syracuse, right?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that's why he kept him, because he was not sure, you know, about that, and he was right. I mean, they taught us a lesson in the first year.
First game.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We were hell in preseason. Remember that?
Yeah.
We were balling, boy. I think we were like 3-1 in
3-1.
preseason.
Hey,
I
listen.
scored a touchdown against the Chargers. I think I ran like 70-something yards.
They left at, you know, Dan Reeves was the head coach at Denver.
Yep.
And we played Denver in the fourth game. And they left an Hall of Fame quarterback in there, and they beat us in overtime.
Yeah,
that was the third loss, the first loss. And we thought, man,
I got an interception
this
that
is
game.
easy.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We thought this was easy.
Oh, when I scored against, I forget who I scored against. Man, we were like, oh my God, such a great family. Well, oh my God, we're gonna be, you know, we thought we were gonna come and kick some ass. And, oh my God,
This was it.
Was it New Orleans? New Orleans was the
first game was New Orleans.
That
was after the last preseason game. Jimmy and Jerry went off the field, arm in arm.
Yeah, we were like,
exactly.
Fist in the air.
Let's bring it back some memory
this is
stuff.
gonna be great.
Listen,
Everson is the best.
and we got our butt kicked down there.
Like
It was
28 to
ugly.
11.
I think Abear was something like 28 for 32 or something like that.
Did we score?
No.
That's what I thought. It was a
I don't
shutout.
think
No, it was ugly.
I know you
Ugly.
didn't gain 200 yards.
Yeah, that's true. Hell, did we gain 100?
That might.
Yeah.
We'll
I can find that out real quick.
Everson did get something from us, though,
What was that?
because when he went to the Giants, they were a cover two team.
Yeah, that's true. We just played it differently.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to tell Jimmy, we got to play this differently.
Yeah, no
we
kidding.
We can't play cover
Listen.
two in prevent.
Yeah, exactly.
And
No,
that's
it was-
that was the Cardinals game and all of that. And like,
Yeah.
oh, Coach, we can't play this like this.
Yeah.
And then we went to the Giants. They played it exactly like, you know, you guys just.
it was different.
Yeah,
It was
you
different.
guys just weren't on that level yet as far as that little nuance, that little nuance.
Right.
Just how do you want the corners to play? That's the
Yeah.
only nuance it was. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
we needed more players up
Yeah,
front.
absolutely.
But the scheme itself, it got better.
Yeah,
You
well,
guys
one
got
of
3
the
Super Bowl
problems,
rings.
obviously was once we got the front seven. That's when we.
That's right.
I mean, you know,
That's right.
we're DBs. You
Yeah,
know what I
man.
mean?
Yeah,
and
we
it
live
helps.
off of them. We live off
You know,
of
when you got the pass rush, that's the key.
Yeah, you got it. Y'all got it, too.
We played cover two without a pass rush, and you really can't do it. They hit us
my
on so
God.
many seam routes, and that I could see.
No
it on-
wonder Vince Albritton was never there for me, right? He got his own problems
kidding, he got
inside.
all kinds of problems.
174 total yards on offense
174.
in a 28-0 loss. First downs were
they do this,
26 to
Dave.
10.
They do this, okay?
They work us over?
Yeah, they
times
work us
did
over,
Aikman
yeah.
get sacked?
Bill always going to find the proof in the pudding.
He really does.
So if you
Aikman
bring
only got
something
sacked
up,
twice.
it's not just going to pass by. No, he's going to dwell, okay? So
Mike Saxon had a better passing day than Troy Aikman did. He was 1 for 1 for 4 yards.
Just a vision of the TV screen. Look what that is. Broncos are benching Russell Wilson for the final 2 games.
Oh, my goodness.
Why?
Wow.
He doesn't play.
Because he's got a contract option coming up in March, and they don't want to risk an injury before they have to make that off-season
or before they have to cut him.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
So Jarrett Stidham will get the start for the Broncos, and this is evidence of a distractible player right here, Coach. And Mickey, you can't put a TV monitor in front of him because he'll
It's
start,
news.
He'll
It's
start reading
news.
the
The
news
conversation.
off.
All you
It's
had to
news.
do is watch the interaction between Russell Wilson and
Sean
Sean
Payton.
Yeah, the
Payton.
last game.
And you
You knew something was up.
Well, I told you the story. I was in Denver skiing in Colorado skiing when they signed him. What was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Every news station led that night with the last piece of the puzzle is here for the Broncos. We're going to the Super Bowl. Oops. Needed to get that story.
All right, yeah. All right, back to the important stuff. What's up, Campo?
Yeah. What else you doing? Radio?
Yeah, I
Playing
actually,
golf every day at Sawgrass?
No, I'll tell you what, I don't play that much golf. I really, every day I have something. I'm on a post-game show for 2 hours.
You're covering
I'm
the
thinking-
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jaguars, yeah,
Well,
I
that's
almost-
a team that's struggling right now.
Yeah.
Listen, I almost didn't get this gig here with you guys because I was in the press box when the Cowboys played us last year, and I was doing a little cheering for the Jaguars. I'm working with them. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's where your money's being
Get a
paid.
couple
by
of bucks through there.
Red is
That's
butter.
right.
Listen, I'm not getting whatever since you get, but I'll guarantee
Whatever,
you.
man. Get out of here.
Well, if I remember that day when I saw him, he was telling me how good this Jaguar team was and that the quarterback's the real deal.
And he is the real deal when he doesn't have a shoulder that's fallen off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they're really struggling, and obviously the Cowboys are going through it a little bit with the last 2 ball games, but the Cowboys have a more talented roster. I mean, there's no question about it in my mind. And that game was an aberration when Jags won last year.
Right.
I was on a podcast, a guy by the name of Mike Tagg, who does a Cowboy podcast out of Tampa.
Okay.
He's a huge Cowboy fan. And the first thing I said was, well, when we talking about the Jaguars. I just did it again. Listen, I'm a Cowboy fan, you know that. But really, they're struggling. The quarterback, once he got hurt, he hasn't been the same.
Yeah.
And, that's something that, but some guys can.
It's
can handle
amazing that he came back from, I guess that was a knee injury.
Yeah.
That was
had a knee, an ankle,
right there.
a knee, an ankle, a shoulder. I mean, he's been banged up.
Yeah.
But we're not very good inside in the offensive line, so that's a problem. And I think what I saw the Cowboy game the other night is a little bit of problem going with the offensive line here.
Well, you got to
Little
get Tyron healthy. And by the way, that brings us to some news of the day.
Nate.
I knew that.
I think he wanted
Nate
him
in
to-
Frisco just
he
walked
wants
by the
Dave to go
studio.
out to practice.
Some news of the day.
Yes.
Cowboys making a roster move today.
Funny that we had
Indeed.
just mentioned something about that yesterday,
That
right?
linebacker situation?
Yes.
And we were looking at Rashawn Evans, who has just been waived.
Okay.
Matt Willetsko has been activated from injured reserve to fill the offensive need that we might have.
Yep. And Jerry was on a radio show yesterday, optimistic. Of course, he's always optimistic, but he's optimistic. Dr. Jerry's optimistic that Tyron will be able to play
Well,
this
did you
week.
hear what he said?
I heard what he said.
It went right over everybody's head. He said after we give him that injection, he's usually better. So they gave him a shot.
Right.
and somebody thought it was still a stinger. It's not a stinger. He's got a disc problem, I guarantee you. And so, and he said usually when he gets the injection, he's much better. I saw him walking in the locker room. He walked perfectly, right? No limp.
There you go.
So we'll see what happens.
I don't know if owners should be speaking out on
Dr.
An
Jerry.
injury. He's
right.
yeah.
I don't know about that
Ask
one.
Camps about Jerry giving the injury.
Listen,
report,
if you
right?
want to
Could you
hear
imagine if Jimmy was here and he's heard something like
listen,
that?
if you want to hear anything about the Cowboys, Jerry will tell you.
Right.
I know that.
That's the problem.
Which I love about him. But I mean, that's him.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up Evans. Since he got here, 71 snaps, so 7.5% of the snaps. And
Have you got that broken down to how much money he's paid?
I
Oh,
did
okay.
not. Yeah, 9 tackles.
Did you, Bill?
It's not much. He's on a veteran minimum deal.
Last 4 games, he's only had 14 snaps, and 11 in one of those. So they weren't using him.
To
And
the
I
point
don't-
that they had 6 DBs on the field virtually the entire game against Miami. Now maybe that was a strategic move.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, and yeah. So
they didn't trust him,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And then, well, let's go. I've been wondering but do you take the chance of saying, well, we got this veteran guy over here, he ain't playing great, and we got this guy is young, and he hasn't played at all,
And he's got a shoulder issue that it seems like every
For
time
2
he
years.
plays that
Yeah.
something happens with that
So
shoulder.
I don't know what they do, but if you go back, you inspired me last night to go back and watch more of the game. And, part of Chuma's problem was, well, he's a little slow off the ball. He gets beat. The other problem was he was just making decision mistakes. Like he kept double teaming with Tyler Smith at guard when the guy was blitzing off the outside, coming clean. And it's like, at some point, don't you have to recognize that? And so that was almost the decisions he was making were almost as bad as, getting beat physically is one thing, but gosh, you got to recognize. I think
I think
Even with that, we only gave up, 21 points?
22 was
22
a
points.
miracle.
Yeah. And that's a high-powered offense, considering.
But the problem was, though, is that they only scored 20. And the quarterback sacked 4 times and got hit 12 times and got out of a couple that I don't know how he got out of. Even that I think it was the last drive.
It
when
was
he
the last
spun
drive.
away and dumped it to the tight end.
Yeah, that was big.
He was going down.
Yeah.
No disrespect to us DB guys, but if you're not operating up front, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
When we got Charles Haley here back in the day, that's why we won Super Bowls. I mean, we played better and all those kind of things, but in reality, the front seven,
another DB had something to do with that as well that y'all brought in too. Yeah. That guy named
Kevin
Dion.
Smith?
Guy named Dion.
Yeah, but that was the last one.
Yeah,
that was
right.
the last
For the
one.
last Super
But
Bowl,
Darren
yeah.
Woodson probably had a pretty good hand in it as well.
Yep.
But I mean, it's
No, he always had a hand in there. Yeah.
So, but really, the front, that's the same thing that's happening with the Jaguars. I mean, they're getting pressure all the time. And Todd Bowles, who's an aggressive coach in his own right, and Todd worked for me in Cleveland. He was a corner coach. He's an aggressive guy. And he did what you have to do with the Jaguars, and this is what you have to be careful of with the Cowboys. He went in and said, okay, we can cover them. Now, with Lamb, that's a tough decision, okay? But with our guys, with Kirk hurt, Ridley's not quite where he needs to be with the Jags. And, and then he said, we can cover them, and they're having trouble protecting. So they just let it eat.
So was Todd Bowles with you in Cleveland when you were in Cleveland after you were the head coach of the Cowboys?
Yes,
and
I was
before he came to Dallas with Parcells.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
He when I went to Dallas, from Dallas to Cleveland, I was a assistant head coach,
Right.
coordinator
With Butch Davis.
with Butch, and we kept Chuck Pagano and Todd. Those were the 2 guys off the defensive staff that we kept when we went in there.
Well, Camps, if I have one hope for you today, that Charles Haley's here.
He's probably walking around right now, somewhere around here.
Let me tell you something. He's a trip.
That's one word.
What a nice guy.
I'm going to say this. I hope Butch Davis and Wanstead are not listening on this at this time, because both of those guys wanted to get him out of here. I said,
Really?
Wait a minute. Hold on here now. Let's work with him. And Jimmy wasn't letting him go anywhere. Believe me. But,
That's because you work so well with the black players.
That's exactly right.
Send him to Campo.
And he's one of the best ones I ever worked with. Right there.
Well, all right. Just to let you know before Bill goes to break, when he comes walking down the hall and everybody's walking towards him, everybody scatters.
All right, we continue with more Mick Shots with Dave Campo, our special guest. We're going to talk Jimmy as the hour continues here in just a moment.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Savannah, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You're a younger generation. I don't know if you realize that or not, but for us who live this whole experience with Coach Campo, we can go on and on talking about it. For the younger generation, what perspective do you have, and do Cowboys fans from your generation have on Jimmy Johnson and the whole 90s Cowboys?
Legends.
Yep.
Legends. Just being able to be here with you today and hear all the stories from the 90s and everything that you guys did to build those Super Bowl teams, it's legendary. And that's what every Cowboys fan, whether you're young or old, that's what you grow up knowing and learning. And I think it's just exciting this weekend, especially for Jimmy and all the support around it and everything from the Jones family to everyone coming into town to be able to be here for this moment. So it's actually very exciting for any age.
It's a tribute to what Jimmy and Coach Campo and what all of them accomplished in their career, that it stands the test of time. Decades later, where people who didn't even see those teams play know the stories of those teams. I think that's pretty cool.
The triplets were so legendary. Yeah. And you know, I mean, we played good defense, but the triplets were the draw. And they played really well. And I think people still know them because they're in the media. And that's, and Daryl Johnston's in the media.
Hey,
those
Monday, the 3 games that were played on Monday, the analyst on all 3 games, CBS had the Kansas City Raiders game at noon, and it was Romo was the analyst.
Yep.
And then the 3 o'clock game, DJ was the analyst, and then the night game, it was Troy. So,
and I think that in itself was, and to almost do it 4 times in a row. I mean, really, in all honesty, if Dion hadn't armbarred Michael in that game and not get the call.
Come on, man.
Armbar, that's being
come on,
polite.
man. He tackled him.
Yeah,
Come on. They didn't call that.
I know. That probably would have been number 4. And it's just we had great players. I mean, all we have to do is just make sure that the guys understand that, there's certain things that are important to winning a ball game. And the players play. And, we were fortunate enough to get great players. And we had a good eye for players. Vincent Smith, a great example. Vincent Smith played at Pittsburgh. Kent Hurok, who was the GM for the Braves at the time.
Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah, I was at a deal. We were at a scouting thing, and it was right when the first form of pre-agency started. The
Plan B
Plan
free
B.
agency.
And we took 18 guys. Okay, we took 18 guys. And I'm sitting there next to Urach because we're waiting for the workout to start, and he was downplaying that because it was the last 10 guys of each team on the rosters. Well, we had 18 of them. So he said, well, let me tell you something. I had Vincent Smith in Pittsburgh. He can't play. He'll never play. Yeah, he only played in one. I think he was in all 3 Super Bowls, but he was at least in 2 of them as a starting outside linebacker.
Well, that's how you got Novacek, too.
Yeah, well, Novacek and Awalt, both
Yeah,
tight
Rob
ends.
Awalt,
Almost the same
2
club.
tight ends in that same.
James Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, we got players.
Was Awalt, he was a Cardinal as well?
Yes. Yes.
Those were 2 huge tight ends.
Yeah.
Novacek was more athletic.
Yes.
But Awalt was huge.
big.
Well, they didn't like the way he blocked.
They didn't?
They didn't like the way Novacek.
Yeah.
Oh, of course not. No,
Yeah.
he wasn't trying to block.
It's like, well, don't ask him to block.
Right. They got Awalt for that.
That's right.
Yeah, Novacek's a little bit like the kid that the Jags have, Ingram.
Yeah.
He's adequate, but he's
As a
really a
blocker.
wide receiver.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
true.
that
That's
plays
true.
close to the line of scrimmage.
So
really.
how much attention have you paid to this team? Do you get to watch the games?
Yeah, because I have NFL Plus.
Okay.
I get that because I can watch the whole secondary. When you watch it on TV, and I'll be honest with you, when you're in the press box, you can't see all the little stuff going on. You have to really watch it again, like you were talking about.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, all 22.
I can see it.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch every Cowboy game, but I've seen quite a few of them.
And your thoughts?
Well, first of all, they've got guys that can take the top off the coverage, and that's huge. It just puts all the pressure on the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
The deficiency that I see really is the ability to stop the run, because you don't want to get into a pass situation with this team where you have to throw. Right. You're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've got guys that can rush the passer. And I'm talking about what we had back in the day. We had 8 guys that could play in the defensive front. The Cowboys, I don't know if they have 8 guys, but they've got.
And they rotate them in there.
Keep them fresh, and they can rush the passer. Even the inside guys can rush the passer.
Mm-hmm.
And
you guys had some no names on the team back then. Was it Jimmy Jones?
Yeah, Jimmy Jones.
Yeah. Jimmy Jones was a great one. He could only play 15 plays a game, and he was all shot. But he'd have 2 fumble recoveries, and he had a fumble into the end zone in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
For a win.
That's right. And he got money. He went to St. Louis, I think. He got in free agency.
Absolutely. But that was a Miami guy.
And he owns half.
We knew his background.
Yeah. He owns half the land past Lancaster.
Does he?
By the way.
Nice.
Yeah, and then they had that other guy from Emporia State
Yeah.
that was in their defensive line.
Leon
Lett.
And add Eric Williams to that from a small little school out in Ohio or something, wherever he was. No, but that
Central
was
State or something.
Central State. That's
Yeah.
right.
Central State.
HBCU. That's right.
Yeah, but really,
College
I
Hall of
think
Fame.
that's the only weakness I see, other than the offensive line was a little banged up.
Right.
And I think that has to be
and
the
part of
fronts
the problems on the run defense right now, and we were talking about it yesterday with the loss of Leighton Vander Esch at linebacker,
right,
and going back to training camp, they lost their third-round pick DeMarvion Overshown, who was not going to projected to start this year. But when you start having injuries in your linebacking core, he was going to get a lot of playing time.
Right.
And once you get into the season, now there's not a whole lot. They pick up Rashaan Evans, and he didn't pan out. He gets waived today. Right. So to the point that they come off a game against Buffalo, they moved Marquise Bell, a safety, to linebacker.
I saw that. And he's a
number
pretty
14.
good player.
Yes,
He's just light.
Light, yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
And so then they get run on by Buffalo, but Buffalo gets a lead, and so they're able to just run it. And then they come up against the Dolphins this week, and literally there was one linebacker on the field the entire game. Yeah. If you consider Bell to be a safety playing linebacker, and Jaron Kearse was in that linebacker position as a safety.
Yeah. And speaking of Damone Clark, I saw that play on a bigger screen than what you text me. Oh, my God.
The holding?
The guy grabbed him and tackled him from behind. And he gets up and he's jumping up and down and nothing.
That was on the last drive of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was holding. That's 10 yards from where they were. It was unbelievable.
It was an 8-yard run that created 2nd and 2 at the 13-yard line, and if you get the call at the 15-yard line, if you get the call, then it's 1st and 20 at the 33, and they're kicking. They're in 50-yard field goal range instead of 20-yard field goal range.
There was a pass play, and Brandon Cooks is coming across the middle, and the guy almost ripped his jersey off.
Yeah.
Tagging from behind, no call. There was a chop block on Parsons, high and low, no call.
That's dangerous. That's
and it
very
was
dangerous.
because the guy pulled him and went down, and then the other guy came over the top, and no call.
The NFL has taken some heat this year on the officials.
How did you
I think
keep
this is the worst.
How do you keep your composure on the sideline?
Well, you don't.
I would get kicked out.
I don't. Unfortunately, Jimmy didn't. We're playing the Giants. I'm sure it was '89. Phil Simms was a quarterback.
Right.
We're playing the Giants, and I'm halfway out to the hash mark. We weren't worth a darn. They were good. I'm halfway out to the hash mark, screaming, hollering. Jimmy grabs me and pulls me off, and he goes, "I'll fire you if you go out there again." 15 minutes later, he and I were halfway out.
It was a Giants game. I don't think it was '89. It might have been '90 or '91.
That was the one.
That was the one in the post game.
You were there. And now
you're playing for the Giants.
For the Giants, yeah.
That was the post-game press conference.
I'm not talking.
Jimmy said, "That's the worst officiating since my daddy said this is what you call a football." That was the Giants post-game.
Oh boy, I'll never forget that because he and I were standing right next to each other, at least 8 or 9 yards on the field, screaming at the officials at the end of the game. So,
well, you remember when Parcells he got pissed at he ended up being a defensive coordinator. He was the son of a coach. I forgot his name.
When he was here?
Yeah, he was
Pendergast.
Wide receiver.
Pendergast, he said?
The passing game coordinator.
Okay.
And then he ended up at Pittsburgh as the OC. Anyway, Parcells had lectured them all to quit yelling at the officials, right? And there was a call that they didn't get, and this guy, he got all over the official, and Bill gets in the middle of it, and he punches him to get him off, right? He just punches him, right?
I remember that.
And Bill tells the story the next day.
That was a Seattle game, I think.
Yeah, the next day we're doing the press conference, and he said, "Yeah, my daughter called me and said we need to go back to anger management."
You can't do that.
All right, we got more time left here with Coach Campo. And by the way, Nate in Frisco has texted in.
He wants Campo
Can
to
you
go
ask
outside.
about Coach Johnson? We will do that with Coach Campo in just a moment here on Mick Shots.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
Sean Polite is your 2023 Cowboys Fan of the Year, and now he needs your help. Vote for Sean to be given the ultimate title of NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan, by casting your vote at NFL.com/fan of the year.
His name is what?
Sean Polite.
Wonder if he's related to Lusaka.
Oh, you remember him?
There's a Cowboys player named Lusaka Polite, fullback. Yeah. That's right. All right, we continue with Dave Campo here, and let's talk Jimmy a little bit. Okay, what is it that stands out to you as far as working for Jimmy as a head coach? What is it?
Well, there are a few things, but the thing that he had that a lot of people don't is he knew people. He knew players. He knew
talent.
He could get into their mindset. He knew when to treat people one way or another way, and he was a great talent evaluator. And he in a lot of cases, I believe this. I heard this story. I heard it from Barry. So I don't know if it's true or not.
This ought to be good.
But
disclaimer.
Yeah. But Barry came in and he said he went in to try to get in the computer and watch a game in Jimmy's office when he first got here, and the computer was disconnected. So his point was he didn't really watch football. He was a CEO, and he had his way of doing things. And really, to be honest with you, that was a big strength for him. And the other thing is he really he's a loyalty guy. He wanted to know that the guys that were around him were his kind of guys. And I think those things are true today, to be honest with you. But he was literally a genius, literally. And all this analytic stuff that goes on today, he had it already, but he didn't have a computer. He wasn't looking at a computer. He had it in his mind. He knew when to onside kick. He knew when to,
go for it on
fourth down. All the things that they're doing today off the analytics, he had that.
If you can pinpoint, what was his finest hour as a Cowboys head coach?
When he stood up and said, "How about them Cowboys?"
I watched this adult cartoon. It's called Archer. They put that in there.
Yeah,
they put that in there. Yeah. They sure did. He was talking about, he was like some military thing. He was talking about, okay, I need my generals to go here. And last thing, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah.
It's on a freaking cartoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen, that's legendary, I think.
It is.
And then the other thing was when he said, he said a couple things. He said, I'll fight Buddy Ryan at the 50-yard line.
But he put his fat rear into the locker room.
That was a fine hour. And I think the other fine hour was when we went to San Francisco, and he said, you can put it in 3-inch letters, we're going to win. And nobody thought, and of course, the head coach said he's got brass,
Seifert,
what's.
Yeah. And that was actually the 93 game.
That was 93.
Yeah, 93.
Yeah, so 92 was when Cowboys went there and won 30-20 en route to the first Super Bowl win.
Right.
And then San Francisco came here in 93.
Yeah, that was that one right there. That one.
They're showing
That's
off.
your favorite.
There you go.
That's your favorite one.
I love it.
So
Is that your favorite?
No, I wore it because Jimmy.
Oh, okay.
95 is my favorite because I was a coordinator at that time, and that was a.
do you remember?
You'll wear the 95 one when Barry goes in the ring.
Exactly. I don't know if he's going in. I don't think he's going to make it. I love the guy now.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I love Barry.
Yes.
But, yeah.
I do too.
You know what? After that 95 one, and I don't know if you remember it this way, but it looked like you guys were just relieved that you survived. And I remember looking in the coaches in the coaches' locker room, and you guys were kind of strewn out on the floor, and they were still in like the whatever underwear they had on, and it would look like they just had arrived like on a shipwreck, right? And it just looked like they were so relieved. There was no celebration. They were just laying there.
That was a tough game.
Listen,
God.
one of the guys that I do the show with in Jacksonville is Leon Searcy.
Yeah.
Played for us at Miami. He was a Pro Bowl right tackle in the league. Played for Pittsburgh at that time. And he's one of the toughest individuals that I've ever been around. And that's what Pittsburgh was at that time, and that was a tough ball game for us. It was a grinder, and Cowher did a great job on that onside kick. We were struggling defensively; they'd move the ball all the way down the field, and until Larry Brown intercepted that ball, we were in trouble. Yeah. And so it was really a case of it was a tough win, and Zimmer was so fired up. I'm up at the press box, and there's a minute something left. We've got the game won, and he's cussing me out about I want to come down and participate. He said, "There's still a minute and a half left." I mean, it was more relief than anything else.
All right, I want to take you back to 89, February of 89. Okay, when word gets out that Jerry Jones is buying the Cowboys and Jimmy Johnson's going to go from Miami to the Dallas Cowboys as head coach. What do you remember from that time?
Well, the first thing I remember was that Jimmy didn't want to go to that restaurant.
Yeah.
That's
Ivan Maisel was at, and the picture was taken.
Because he made that very clear, and Jerry didn't realize, being an oil and gas guy, he didn't really understand how it worked, with the media and all that. So
basically what happened, Savannah, is they went to Mexican food restaurant. What restaurant was it?
Mia's.
Mia's. I think.
Mia's.
Yeah.
And
Where?
Like off Northwest Highway.
Okay, here in Dallas.
In Dallas.
Okay.
Yes, in Dallas. And Ivan Maisel, who went on to a career at ESPN, he was working for the Dallas Morning News there. He spots Jimmy in there, and then he puts two and two together because the reports had come out in the previous couple of days that this Jerry Jones guy is going to buy the Cowboys, whatever. And so, but anyway, Jimmy and Jerry are in the restaurant, and so a picture gets posted, basically, or published on, I think it was on that Saturday morning.
Right. He called the photographer at the morning news.
Right, and said, "You got to get here." There weren't
Breaking
cell
news,
phones then,
yeah.
Savannah, and so it wasn't like Ivan
news.
couldn't break out his phone and take a picture.
we are.
That's how old we are. They had to dial it.
He probably put a quarter in.
It was a week later they had developed the film, and then,
Right. Exactly.
and then finally it got in the paper.
And really, that's when I got nervous because what I said earlier, when that came out, I said, uh-oh, I may be out of a job here, and that I remember that very strongly. But I also remember we flew in on Jerry's plane, and the hill coming off of, what's the 635?
635 to MacArthur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
at Valley Ranch.
Yeah, we get off. We're getting off of 635, and we look down and we see the complex. There was nothing there. but the complex.
Yeah.
There were no houses, no anything, no restaurants, no buildings, nothing. And that stuck out to me too, because I said, man, where are we here? We in middle of nowhere or what?
I can't remember what one of your assistants said, but he said when we were coming down that hill, I said to myself, oh my God, what have we got
ourselves into? That's right.
Okay, so then fast forward after the second Super Bowl win, and then it's March of 1994, and the divorce happens. And so what was going through your mind at that point?
Well, Jimmy had come in, and he had told us that, you know, what had happened and that there was an issue. He said, I think we're all right. He said, but I'm going over. And we were just sitting in a staff meeting, and he said, we're going, you know, well, I'll let you know what's going on. So we're just kind of sitting there, and he went over and he walked in and he said, guys, it's over, but you guys are all right.
He went over to Jerry's office, which is a hallway. Yeah. And mind you, there was media that was allowed inside Valley Ranch in the hallway, in the zone, where we were camped out for like 2 days there, 3 days there, between Jimmy's office and Jerry's office. And whenever there was movement, here are all the mini cams and everything up, and they're following Jimmy as he makes the walk to Jerry's office. I mean, it was made for great television.
Savannah,
so then you're in a staff meeting just waiting to see what the verdict is.
Yeah, before I finished that, Savannah, when I went out of here, there was nobody outside.
Oh, no.
I don't feel bad. When Parcells left with his baseball bat, there was, I think, one photographer was at Channel 11, I think, got the picture of him walking out because he happened to stake out the
That's why
facility.
Jimmy's a legend. Yeah. You know, I mean, you said it right. I mean, that group there. But anyway, so we're sitting there, and Jimmy walked back in, and he said, hey, guys, it's over. And he said, you guys are all right, I think. And he said, I think. Mm-hmm. So about an hour later, Jerry called us down to the staff, the regular staff meeting room. And we're sitting there, and he goes, guys, I want to introduce you to your new head coach. And in walked Barry. And Barry walked in, and Barry looked at us, and he said, hey, let me tell you something. He said, I'm not changing anything that's good. He said, I only ask you for one thing. That's be loyal to me. Mm-hmm. That was it. And he walked out, and that was it. We went back to work. Business as usual.
So my question is, they talk about Jimmy and this 5-year thing.
Yes.
Have you ever talked about that?
No, but I agree.
Once he's there for 5 years, he's ready to go.
Yep.
And that was the same with Dallas. That's what you felt.
He did Dallas, and he did the Miami Dolphins the same way.
Oklahoma State.
And Oklahoma State. You know, I mean,
you
say
talk
it's
to
a
him about
5-year
that?
thing.
I mean,
I've never talked to him. I've never asked him.
So the job with Fox is probably the longest one he's had.
Exactly. And he tried to get out of this one, but they won't let him. Right? They keep saying,
you can do it from home. Yeah.
You know, you can do whatever. No, but I say that a lot. You know, hey, Jimmy was a 5-year guy. Mm-hmm. That's it. You know,
I thought that was really just the media, speculating things.
I think there's something to it, to be honest with you. That's crazy. But I don't know that. I'm just saying that.
If it makes you feel better, your predecessor walked out the door by himself also.
Yeah.
Chan Gailey.
Yeah.
The last person he saw was me.
Oh, Lord.
And he wasn't happy with me.
Okay, and now to wrap this up, what do you think it means to Jimmy? I mean, there's been so much speculation over the last decades that, okay, when's Jimmy going into the Ring of Honor? What does it mean to him
I think it means an awful lot. I think he put everything he had. You know, he got divorced from his wife as soon as he got here. Mm-hmm. And I don't want him to listen to that, but I mean, he was tunnel visioned on what was going to happen at the Dallas Cowboys. And he knew it was a big deal. And I can tell you this, when we're up at the Hall of Fame, and Jerry and Jimmy are talking. We're in a Cowboy party at the Hall of Fame, and Jerry said to him, he said, "Well, I know you're going to go in the Ring of Honor." And Jimmy said, "Before I die."
Or before you die.
Yeah. So it means a lot to him, and that's why I'm here. I'm here because of gratitude for what he did, but I'm also here for respect for what he deserves. Mm-hmm. And I did a little video, I think is going on the board or whatever, and the last thing I said was, the ring's not the ring without you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Good stuff.
The way I look at it. Now, I mean, I was there. I lived it. But that's how I see it.
Good stuff, man.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, hey,
Yes,
this has been
thank
great.
you.
I probably talk too much.
No,
but
man, this is perfect.
No,
man.
we
being
love
around
this.
you guys.
Better listen to Spagnola. God.
And by the way, you can catch more of Dave Campo at 11 a.m. on Saturday on CBS 11 on Cowboys Game Day.
Oh, very good.
Right.
Right. All right, and that does it for Mick Shots. And how about we take a look at the Detroit Lions tomorrow?
Well, I've got all my Lions notes
All
ready
right,
to go.
very good.
We'll deep dive into the Lions
All right,
tomorrow.
and it's going to be Savannah's show tomorrow as well.
All right, let's do it.
Mick Shots. Thanks a lot, Coach.
You're
And
welcome. Thanks, guys, for
Enjoy
having
your
me.
week
I
here,
appreciate
back
it.
home.
Campo.
And
My boy.
we'll shout at you again tomorrow on Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?